Well, hello there. It's Paul Mash TV time again. Thank you so much for joining us. We got another great interview coming up for you shortly. It's going to be a great one too. But before we get into that, don't forget about the bell and the subscribe button below you there. And anytime a new episode comes your way, you'll be notified. You can check that out. And if you want to, leave a comment on the comments section. We'd love to hear from you. And if you want to check us out on Facebook and follow us there, it's facebook.com/Paul Mash TV. And in addition to following us, you can comment on things there and send us an inbox. We'd love to hear from you. And if you'd like to send us an email, it's paulmashtv, all one word, at gmail.com. And if you're a band or a solo artist that want to be on the show, send us an email and we'll show you how to do that. But we also love fan mail, so if you're just simply a fan, just send us an email and we'll get back to you. And all this is going to be recapped at the closing credits at the end of the show, so stay tuned for that. From London, England today, we have Norda Mullen. She was part of the Moody Blues group, and she's going to talk a little bit about that, and she's going to talk about a lot of other things too. And I'm sure that you'll enjoy the interview, and we'll get to that in a second, but first, here's a word from Galtar. The guitar is made specifically for women, and we'll be right back right after this.
Ready in 5.
Darling, when nothing else seems to match up. Galtar, the musical apparel that fits any outfit. Galtar, bringing heaven to earth, one gal at a time. GaltarHeaven.com.
Okay, we're back, and with us we have a special guest with us today. She used to be with the Moody Blues at one time. Her name is Norda Mullen, and I want to thank you for coming on the show, Norda.
Thank you very much, Paul. Nice to be here.
Yeah, she was a flutist for the group. When was that exactly?
Well, let's see. I started with them right when Ray Thomas retired. He retired at the end of 2002. So I joined them in, I believe, around March of 2003, March 1st or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I only remember 2 or 3 of their songs, like In Your Wildest Dreams, that was in the 80s. And then, of course, what was it? Nights in White and Satin, I think was one of them. That was in the 70s.
That was a minor hit. I'm kidding. Yeah, that was a big one. That was a big one.
But I do remember both of those songs, though.
Tuesday afternoon was a good one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well. As far as being an artist yourself, how did that begin? I mean, I'm sure you've always wanted to be one. Maybe it came later. Tell us a little bit about how you decided you wanted to be an artist.
Yeah, well, I guess that happened just way young. My mother was a violinist. In fact, there she is. I just saw her in the thing because I'm in the studio. That's my mother. She was a violinist. She was from Greek. She was Greek, and she played mandolin and violin. And then I had my grandmother on the other side played piano, like ragtime piano. My grandfather played the organ, and my sisters were all musicians and flute players, and my cousins played marimba. And we just had a very musical family. So I just kind of grew up always thinking, why not music? I mean, I didn't think in terms of a career. I just thought that's really all I know. That's all I want to do is just do music in whatever form. So kind of just all I've ever done. I never really thought about it really further, like, oh, do I want to do that or do something else? It's more just kind of just happened that way.
Oh, okay. Well, that's quite a story. And I guess you're still an artist now, doing what you're doing, and hopefully you'll have many years ahead of you.
I hope so. Yeah, fingers crossed.
Well, what are the your influences growing up? I mean, I'm sure there were some big time artists that especially the legends you grew up with.
Yeah, for sure. There were a lot of them. Again, I had so many different influences because I grew up I was born in Tennessee, and then I grew up in Mississippi. And so there was a big blues and, a big Southern blues feel to my life because I grew up right there. And then, of course, we had great radio stations in Mississippi. So I moved to Mississippi in 1964. believe it or not. And, you know, we were able to hear, I mean, in this tiny town in Mississippi, we heard, you know, the Rolling Stones and the Moody Blues and the Beatles and Bob Dylan, and they just played great music in the South. And I grew up with all that because I had 5 older siblings. So I was exposed in that way. But then, of course, because my mother was classically trained, I, you know, studied flute classically. So I kind of had two parallel universes going on musically for me. So I had a lot of influences in the classical world, in the flute world, you know, Jean-Pierre Rampal and James Galway and all the major flute players. And then in the rock world, of course, it was Ian Anderson and even Ray Thomas from the Moody Blues and, you know, all the rock flute that was going on at that time, because that became, you know, the 60s was the time when the flute was introduced into rock music, I guess, and the hippie age and the flute players at Woodstock, and, you know, everybody carried a flute around back then. So it became a folk instrument in that sense. And so that influenced me as well, because I heard it on the radio and I would try to pick those things up by ear on the flute. It was great experience to have
Right.
that much.
Those are some good influences too. I mean, you had mentioned the Beatles and things like that as well, obviously.
Absolutely. And the
Where
Supremes.
where you're located at, you know, the Beatles are big, you know, especially.
Beatles and Elvis. Elvis was big. My best friend that I grew up with, she showed me, we had our high school reunion recently, and she showed me a ticket that she saw Elvis, that she had seen Elvis at the Mid-South Coliseum, which was in Memphis in 1968 or something. And the ticket was like $7, but it said Elvis Presley, and she went, you know. And my mother and 2 of my sisters saw the Beatles in Memphis in the year that John Lennon made the comment about them being more popular than Jesus. That tour was very rough for them because in the South, everybody burned their albums. You know, I don't know if you heard about that they burned. So that was that tour they were on, that my mother and 2 sisters went to that concert in Memphis also. So pretty amazing stuff was going on back then.
I see. Okay. Well, that's, you know, like I said, those are great influences, and I can see where you get your sound from.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can get all your stuff on all the streaming media. Maybe you have physical copies as well. Tell us about the social media, you know, like Facebook and so forth.
Yeah. Well, I'm on Facebook. I have a website, nordamullen.com. There's a lot of my music. I think there's a purchase page on that, so you can get it that way. I'm on Spotify. If you ever want to just stream, you just say my name, Norda Mullen, and it'll just play a bunch of my songs, which is really fun. And so I have a website, Norda Mullen. I have an official page on Facebook. I'm on Instagram and Twitter and all that, but you know.
Okay. Well,
I gotta learn about all. I gotta get better at that stuff.
Okay. Well, I guess we can find you on all social media sites
Yeah,
then.
you can find me in all. Yeah, it's yes, you can find me on all social media. Yeah, Norda Mullen.
Go to your favorite social media site and all your streaming platforms and download Norda songs. I know she would just love you for that, and be sure to check out her website too, because there might be some upcoming concerts and.
Absolutely. And it has some clips from my last concert here in London. It has a little flute clip I did at, you know, a little video there. That's the most recent video. So that was fun. And then I have a new release song. I don't know if you're going to touch on this tonight, called Down to the River. Yeah. So there's
just getting ready to ask you that. That is the the video that we're going to play is Down to the River.
That's excellent.
What's the story behind that? I guess it's self-explanatory. Maybe it gets deeper than that, but maybe you can tell us in your own words.
That story, the story about that is actually, it was co-written by my husband and myself. It's actually, he really came up with the core of the idea, because it was about when the day Queen Elizabeth died, and everybody was lining up along the river to see her, to go in to see her casket in London. And also just people were lined up when they drove through, you know, London, with the casket going on their way to, gosh, now I'm going to show how stupid I am, wherever they took her casket eventually. So it went through all the towns and everybody was lining up. That was the point. And that's when he came up with, you know, that people were just lining up, and it was really, the song is about the combination, I guess I want to say the 2 opposing sides of politics today, and what a wonderful woman the Queen was, and her genteel type of attitude, and her kind of objective view on things, because they can't really get political, the royal family. So it's kind of the comparison between the 2, you know, the not evilness of politics, but you know, the politics. And then the wonderfulness of the Queen and her lovely life, and how it brought out people on the street. You know, the love was pouring out of people when they were lining up to see her casket and to see her drive by. You know, it was amazing time all over London. You know, all over England, people were. It was wonderful.
Okay, well, it is a great song, by the way, and I know everybody out there is going to love it as well, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But before we do that, thank you so much for coming on the show, Norda. Anytime you want to come back, let me know, and maybe we'll have you on and you can plug something else for us.
I would love to. Thank you.
Okay, and here it is, Down to the River by Norda Mullen, and it starts right now.
I went down to the river today. I saw people, they were starting to pray. I felt love, there was love in the air. It's a feeling to share. No matter what you say or do, the truth reveals itself to you. We get to see the writing on the wall. No matter whether near or far, we all can chase that shooting star. The shining light of hope can reach us all. I went down to the river today. Crowds of people were beginning to sway. It's a